Hey guys, so we are all about natural living and ways that we can save money and reduce waste on our homestead. And recently we came across making your own eggshell powder, and it's awesome. It does all of those things. And so let's talk about how you can make your own eggshell powder and why you want to. Alright, so we first came across this idea of making our own eggshell powder a little bit ago when Jim was telling me we needed to get another bag of oyster shells to give to our chickens for their calcium supplementation. And I thought, you know what, like we have all of these eggshells sitting here on our counter. We go through so many eggs on our homestead. Can't we just give them eggshell powder? And so I started doing a little bit of research into it. I had been hearing this term eggshell powder quite a lot recently, and so I thought, maybe this would be a good alternative to oyster shells for our chickens. And turns out that it is. And so we started making our own eggshell powder to give to our chickens. And then the more I dove into the world of eggshell powder, the more I realized that there are lots of benefits and uses for eggshell powder that I had no idea about. And so making your own eggshell powder at home is super, super easy. All you need to do is save your eggshells. So here's our bucket of eggshells. So we have just been having this bowl on the counter for like the last 3 days. We eat a lot of eggs, and this is what we got. Because we eat eggs from our pasture-raised chickens, we don't wash the eggs. They're pretty clean. This is just, I just leave this bowl on the counter, throw eggs in as we use them. But you might want to keep them in the refrigerator if it's going to be longer than that, or you get eggs from a source that maybe you're not 100% sure about or whatever. You can keep the eggs in the fridge too. Or if it's going to be a really long time where you're going to collect eggs, maybe over a month or something because you don't go through them, you might want to keep the eggshells in the freezer as you collect them. But regardless, you just want to collect eggshells. Now, you don't need this many. You could collect even just 10 to 12 eggshells to make eggshell powder, to just make a small amount, and that will last you too. But we have a whole bunch of eggshells here. And so the first step is just taking these eggshells and you're going to put them in boiling water. Now this step is to sterilize the eggshells, so making sure there's no bacteria on them, making sure they are clean and ready to go. So you're going to boil them in hot water for 5 to 10 minutes. Just let them go for a couple of minutes. All right, and then after your eggs are boiled, you're going to take them out and you're going to strain them. So strain all the water off and get your eggshells. From there, you're going to put them onto a cookie sheet. So just a baking pan, put them in a flat line. You don't want to overlap them a whole bunch because then they won't dry thoroughly, but you just want to lay them out in a single layer on baking sheets. And then you're going to go ahead and pop them into your oven at around 200 degrees, 225 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. So the purpose is basically you're sterilizing them and then you want to dry them out so that they are completely bone dry. All right, so our eggshells are out of the oven and we are gonna go ahead and blend them now into a powder. But I just wanted to pop in and share just one quick thing. So I am in the habit of stacking our eggshells like on top of each other. That's just what I tend to do. But if you do that, it can make it really hard for your eggshells to fully dry out. Water gets stuck in between them, they get stuck together. So if you're doing that and you're stacking them, that's fine. If you're going to be making like a coarsely ground eggshell powder for like your chickens, like we are here, that's not really that big of a deal for that application. But if you want to make a really fine powder for like a skincare product, a toothpaste, or to throw in your smoothies or add for like a nutritional supplement, then you want to have a nice fine powder. So it's really important that you don't stack those eggshells together, but you want to have them separated because they're going to just dry out much better that way and much more quickly. So just wanted to throw that in there. All right, and then after your eggshells are dry out of your oven, pull them out and then you're going to grind them. Now, how fine you want to grind your eggshell powder will depend on what you're using it for. So for us, when we are using our eggshell powder to give to our chickens, for example, it doesn't need to be super finely ground. In fact, coarser ground eggshells are actually better for this. And so for this purpose, I just take them and I'll just grind them here with my mortar and pestle. So you just want to get like a rough grind on a coarse grind on your eggshells. But if you're looking to do something like make toothpaste out of your eggshells, you're going to want a really fine eggshell powder. And so for this, using either a coffee grinder or a food processor, or we like to use here, we have a Vitamix. And so this is our dry, we have a dry and a wet container. So this is the dry container on our Vitamix. So I just use that to blend it into a fine powder. And that's it. That's how you make eggshell powder. And as long as those eggshells were thoroughly dried and you keep the eggshell powder from getting moist at all, that eggshell powder will last on your counter just fine for a year or even more than a year. It'll last for a long time. And so there are a lot of benefits to using eggshell powder. So eggshell powder, the eggshells are basically made up of 90% calcium carbonate. And so that's the same calcium that makes up our bones, our teeth, our nails. And so that calcium is essential for a lot of processes in the body and for health. And so we need that. But it's important that calcium is balanced out with other vitamins and minerals. And so depending on your situation, especially if you're someone who maybe can't or doesn't consume a lot of dairy, it might be really helpful for you to start consuming calcium in the form of eggshell powder into your regular diet. So it's kind of the sort of thing that is just up to you and your situation, but the recommended amount of, if you're going to consume eggshell powder as a dietary kind of supplement yourself, is about a half teaspoon is going to roughly equate to 400 to 500 grams of calcium. So if you're going to add it to your food, you can just toss it into smoothies or even heartier dishes. You can just throw it in and you wouldn't even notice that it's there. And so a half teaspoon might be a good amount to start, depending on what your needs are. Other uses for eggshell powder is actually eggshell powder is really, really good for a lot of different skincare products. So like I mentioned, adding it to toothpaste before. So a lot of people are looking to make their own remineralizing toothpaste, and this is something we haven't done yet, but I'm super excited to give it a try here soon. And so this eggshell powder can be a great addition to your homemade toothpaste and remineralizing toothpaste. It's also really helpful for irritated skin if you mix it with some apple cider vinegar and then apply it on like bug bites or irritated skin. It can be really soothing and help with that. And some other skin uses are people mix eggshell powder with either honey, and that can help reduce like dark spots on skin, or with they mix eggshell powder with sugar, and that can be exfoliating and get rid of dead skin cells. So there's all sorts of different nourishing ways to add it into either your dietary routine or your skincare routine. And then in addition to giving eggshell powder as a calcium supplement to chickens, it can also be a good calcium supplement for dogs. So just sprinkle a little bit of eggshell powder over your dog's food. You might want to consult with your vet before doing this to make sure that would be a healthy thing for your animal, but that's been another way it's been used. And then lastly, if you're not into eating eggshell powder and don't want it for that, it's also just really, really great for the garden. So calcium is essential in soil, and it's really helpful for having healthy plants. And so amending it into your soil before you plant in the spring, and then just sprinkling it in as you garden, is a really helpful and healthy way to grow healthy plants and amend your soil. But also eggshell powder can be a great deterrent of pests in your garden. And so the smell of eggshell powder has been known to deter deers from getting in your garden, as well as different snails and slugs and things like that. And so there are a lot of really awesome uses for eggshell powder, and it's just a great way to use a resource, use a thing that you already have anyway, and put it to use. So that is how you make eggshell powder, and a great use for all of those eggshells that you have just lying around anyway. So we hope this inspires you to give it a try and see how you can add it into your daily routine. So thanks so much for stopping by the farmstead today, and we'll see you next time.